What is the Bhagavad Gita? The Bhagavad Gita is one of the world's most influential spiritual books and a timeless part of Hindu philosophy. Set on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, it is a conversation between Lord Krishna and the warrior Arjuna. As Arjuna struggles with fear and doubt, Krishna teaches him about purpose, duty, self-discipline, inner peace, and the true nature of life. The Gita's core message is simple yet powerful. Do your duty with integrity, without being attached to the outcome. Today, the Bhagavad Gita inspires millions of people around the world, including in the United States, for its practical wisdom on leadership, resilience, mindfulness, and personal growth. Bhagavad Gita Chapter 1 Arjuna Vishada Yoga, the Yoga of Arjuna's Despair. The first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga, which means the Yoga of Arjuna's Despair. It sets the stage for one of the greatest spiritual conversations in history. The story begins on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where two branches of the same royal family, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, are about to fight a great war. King Dhritarashtra, who is blind, asks his charioteer Sanjaya to describe everything happening on the battlefield. As both armies prepare for battle, the sound of conch shells echoes across the field, signaling that the war is about to begin. The Pandava warrior Arjuna, one of the greatest archers of his time, asks Lord Krishna, who is serving as his charioteer, to place their chariot between the two armies so he can see those gathered to fight. When Arjuna looks across the battlefield, he sees his own relatives, teachers, friends, elders, and loved ones standing on both sides. He recognizes respected figures such as his grandfather, his teachers, cousins, and many people he deeply cares about. Seeing them, Arjuna is overwhelmed with grief and compassion. His body trembles. His mouth becomes dry. His famous bow, the Gandiva, slips from his hands, and his confidence disappears. He begins to question the purpose of the war. Arjuna tells Krishna that he does not want to gain victory, wealth, or a kingdom if it means killing his own family and loved ones. He believes that such a victory would bring only sorrow and destruction. He worries that the death of so many family members would destroy family traditions, moral values, and social harmony. Confused and emotionally broken, Arjuna says he would rather lay down his weapons than fight against those he loves. Unable to decide what is right, he sits down in his chariot, filled with despair and uncertainty. The first chapter ends with Arjuna surrendering to his emotions. His inner conflict prepares the way for Lord Krishna's teachings, which begin in the next chapter. Through those teachings, Krishna explains the nature of duty, the soul, righteous action, self-control, and the path to lasting wisdom. Key message of Chapter 1. Sometimes the greatest wisdom begins with honest questions and deep inner struggle. Arjuna's despair becomes the starting point of his spiritual awakening. Bhagavad Gita Chapter 2 Sankhya Yoga, the Yoga of Knowledge. The second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is called Sankhya Yoga, or the Yoga of Knowledge. It is one of the most important chapters because Lord Krishna begins teaching Arjuna the fundamental truths about life, the soul, duty, and wisdom. Arjuna is still overwhelmed with sorrow and refuses to fight. Seeing his confusion, Lord Krishna gently rebukes him for allowing fear and grief to overcome his courage. Krishna reminds Arjuna that such weakness is not worthy of a noble warrior. Krishna then reveals one of the Gita's greatest teachings. The soul, Atman, is eternal. The body is temporary and will eventually perish, but the soul can never be destroyed. It is never born and it never dies. Just as a person changes old clothes for new ones, the soul leaves one body and takes another. Krishna explains that death is a natural part of life. Therefore, wise people do not grieve endlessly over the temporary body. Instead, they understand the eternal nature of the soul. As a warrior, Arjuna has a righteous duty, Dharma, to protect justice. Krishna tells him that avoiding his duty out of fear or attachment would bring dishonor. Performing one's duty with sincerity is more important than seeking comfort or avoiding difficulty. One of the chapter's most famous teachings is, "You have the right to perform your actions, but never to the fruits of those actions." Krishna explains that people should focus on doing the right thing rather than becoming attached to success, failure, reward, or recognition. This attitude is called karma yoga, selfless action performed without attachment to the results. Krishna also teaches the importance of maintaining balance in every situation. A wise person remains calm during both success and failure, pleasure and pain, gain and loss. Such inner balance leads to peace and spiritual growth. The chapter concludes with Krishna describing the qualities of a sthita prajna, or a person of steady wisdom. Such a person remains calm in happiness and sorrow, controls desires and emotions, is free from anger, fear and attachment, keeps the mind focused and disciplined, finds lasting peace through self-control and wisdom. Key message of Chapter 2. True strength comes from understanding that the soul is eternal, performing your duty with integrity, and remaining detached from the outcome of your actions. Inner peace is achieved through wisdom, self-discipline, and unwavering faith in what is right. Bhagavad Gita Chapter 3. Karma Yoga, the Yoga of Action. The third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is called Karma Yoga, or the Yoga of Selfless Action. In this chapter, Lord Krishna explains why performing one's duty is essential and how actions should be carried out without selfish attachment. Arjuna asks Krishna why he should fight if knowledge is considered superior to action. Krishna answers that simply avoiding action does not lead to spiritual freedom. Every person must act because no one can remain completely inactive, even for a moment. Krishna teaches that the right path is to perform one's duties with sincerity, without expecting personal rewards. This is called karma yoga, the practice of selfless action. When people work only for selfish desires, they become attached to success and failure. However, when actions are performed as a service to God and for the benefit of others, the mind becomes peaceful and free. Krishna explains that the universe functions through a natural cycle of cooperation and sacrifice. When people fulfill their responsibilities honestly and contribute to society, harmony is maintained. Selfish actions, on the other hand, create conflict and suffering. He also emphasizes that great leaders should lead by example. Whatever respected people do, others are likely to follow. Therefore, those in positions of influence should always act with honesty, responsibility and compassion. Krishna warns Arjuna about the greatest enemies of spiritual growth: desire and anger. Desire arises from uncontrolled attachment, and when desires are not fulfilled, they often turn into anger. Desire and anger cloud judgment, weaken wisdom, and lead people away from the right path. To overcome these obstacles, Krishna advises controlling the senses, disciplining the mind, and using wisdom to guide every action. By mastering the mind and dedicating actions to a higher purpose, a person can achieve inner peace and spiritual progress. Krishna encourages Arjuna to perform his duty as a warrior with courage and righteousness without being attached to victory or defeat. Acting according to one's duty is better than avoiding responsibility out of fear or attachment. Key message of Chapter 3. The path to freedom is not escaping responsibility, but performing every action with honesty, self-discipline, and selflessness. When we do our duty without attachment to personal rewards, we grow in wisdom, serve others, and move closer to lasting peace.